Cool, let's get started. What's going on, guys? A lot of friendly faces up here. Good to see everyone again. My name's Robbie. I run the Rollup. You'll notice that's not my picture. That's my partner, Andy. I'm the other penguin of the group, so all good there. We run a podcast and consulting company. We help a lot of projects come out of stealth, go to market, that sort of thing, and also help ask questions and bring projects a little bit easier to understand to the rest of the world. I'm in the very lucky position of asking questions and learning on this panel. And so I think first to start, it would be helpful just for everyone to kind of get acquainted and go around with a round of intros. You want to start?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Firat. I'm the co-founder CTO of Nuffle Labs, which we just spun out as a separate entity from Near Protocol. And we're mostly focusing on modular infrastructure that would enable roll-ups on ETH or any other platform, or not just even roll-ups, but also L1s to scale their businesses and provide value to their users.
Hello, happy to be here. My name is Yair Cleper. I'm the co-founder and initial core contributor at Lava Network. Lava Network helping chains to bootstrap its own infra. Everything starting from RPC, APIs, indexing, and so forth. Already doing that, hopefully successfully, at Near, Axelar, Evmos, and Mainnet is coming soon.
Hi, I'm Vivian. I lead partnerships at Optimism. So Optimism started as OP Mainnet, Ethereum L2 network. More recently, we expanded Optimism to include not just OP Mainnet, but all the other L2s. That are using the OP stack and contributing revenue back to Optimism. So Optimism now actually comprises of the super chain. You may have heard of networks like Base or Mode, Zora, World Chain, all part of the super chain. So I do a lot of growth things, especially partnerships. A lot of our partners are here, so it's very exciting.
Hi everyone, this is Vince, co-founder and the CEO at ZKlink. We're building aggregation solutions for blockchains and rollups, especially for Ethereum ecosystem. We have launched ZKlink Nova, the first aggregated layer 3, aggregating Ethereum layer 1 and its layer 2s. It's already live on mainnet since March, and we have integrated with about 10 different layer 2s, and including the Ethereum layer 1, we have about 1 billion TVL total funds locked on our chain, and about 30 to 50 application is already live. And we also have another solution called ZKlink X. It's an application-specific scaling engine based on ZK Snarks, similar to what the Stackware Labs has launched, the StackX powering DYDX v3. And ZKlink X also has a few ecosystem applications already live, including Apex Pro. They launched recently a new product called Apex Omni using ZKlink's X solution, and also have a ZKEX and other order book DEX. So it's meant for high performance and also with omni-chain liquidity aggregated for the order book exchange. And we are now building multi-chain intent infrastructure, this feature similar to what Solana has proposed, the Blink, so to facilitate the user experience, to help mass adoption, and to help to get users onto Ethereum and its rollups.
Awesome. Very good, guys. So they want us to have yet another modular versus monolithic conversation. Does anyone on this panel believe in the monolithic side? They didn't invite anyone?
I come from Near Protocol, which is actually
Right.
monolithic.
Yeah. But now going modular with
Yeah,
Nuffle.
so I think there are pros and cons, right? I don't think it's clear cut that one of them is just better than the other one. There's just trade-offs. What we're seeing right now is what we do, by the way, at Nuffle Labs. We took Near Protocol, which is a monolithic blockchain, and then we took the DA and consensus out, and then provided a platform where rollups can use it as a TA layer, which kind of helped us to specialize on one part of the chain, but on the other side of the coin, what we're seeing right now is more and more fragmentation of every part of the stack, right? So that is the kind of monolithic versus modular part. Is as we specialize in our areas, then we're starting to see fragmentation of any part of the stack. Mostly right now, what we're seeing is just mostly on the liquidity fragmentation, but I think we will still see other parts, which are very, very important, like projects like you, aggregating all of these, and yeah, just generally, we should just be mindful of the trade-offs and just not call one of them just winning and versus the other one.
Absolutely, and I was ready to take the monolithic position if everyone else is going to take the modular one. So, yeah, any thoughts there?
You know, I jumped into Web3 3 years ago when it was the NFT summer. Back then, you know, as a newcomer to the industry, everyone was telling me there's going to be a consolidation around the L1s. At the end of the day, it's going to be Solana, Ethereum, one of them. But in the last 3 years, we see the other way around, right? We see more and more chains coming up, roll-ups, L2s. We heard now L3, you know, in the last year. And you know, my personal understanding of what everyone represents is that everyone has its own doctrine, right? There is the monolithic thesis, there is the modular, roll-up-centric. At the end of the day, I'm not here to judge who is going to win, but how do we solve problems as fragmentation, problems that at the end of the day are going to bring the billion users and onboarding them on Web3.
Well said. I'd love to hear from both the Optimism and the ZKlink side, coming from the aggregation side when it comes to liquidity, and then the super chain, which is bringing a lot of these chains together. When we think about modularity, a lot of times it's this unbundling process. And so both Optimism and ZKlink are kind of bundling some things back together. And so I'd love to hear more about some of the advantages that brings.
Yeah, it's interesting. So another reason why actually monolithic is not all bad, right? So we talk about the fragmentation and breaking apart the pieces of the blockchain. One of the things that we recently released called Plasma Mode is a DA layer that allows anybody that's using the OP stack to choose any DA layer that they want, right? Near, Avail, Celestia, ETH, whoever you want. Great, that sounds wonderful. What that also entails is that a chain can choose centralized DA, so Amazon S3 for their DA layer, right? And there's pros and cons to doing that. However, from a developer and definitely end user perspective, like very few users are looking at what the DA layer is and where the DA is stored, right? So having your data off chain in Amazon S3, like there's obviously security questions to be raised about that, right? So although modularity allows for a lot of flexibility, it also kind of from a user and developer's perspective can cloud and hide a lot of the things behind the stack, right? So I think that's an interesting thing. For the super chain overall, our goal actually, yes, is to aggregate and to have all of these L2s be interoperable. However, that's not possible if every single chain is a different type of blockchain, meaning that every single consensus and execution layer is different, right? So the core of the super chain is going to be a set of interoperable chains that have the same exact stack. And that's how we can ensure the security and that every single stack actually has the same level of security as every other one. Then there's going to be a set of chains that is outside of the core interoperable set that can be just as flexible with, that can have like the maximum amount of modularity and flexibility as they want. And there's trade-offs to both, right? If you're part of the core interop set, you get benefit from aggregated liquidity and less fragmentation. However, you're bound to a very specific high set of standards for your stack. Or you can kind of tinker and hack and like leverage different types of the execution consensus layer, but you're probably not going to be part of that core interop set. So we think of it on both ends of the spectrum and allow for flexibility.
And from the liquidity side?
Yes, we are definitely bullish on modular solutions. But also, I think the Solana folks would argue that the monolithic chain, a layer 1, can also be super successful and can be a long-term winner as well. As a matter of fact, I think the Solana ecosystem is really resilient and it's really still growing pretty fast, pretty impressive. And the modular solutions are to solve the limitations of monolithic blockchains. And while the Solana and also other high-performance layer 1's monolithic chains also have advantages over, for example, they don't have this liquidity fragmentation within the Solana ecosystem. They're very well integrated ecosystem and atomic interoperability. The Ethereum ecosystem right now is really very fragmented. It's a pressing matter that really prevents users from using some of the real applications. You have like 20, 30, more than that probably, layer 2s already. We're probably going to have 200, 300 layer 3s for one application, one layer 3s. I think this definitely makes sense because the sovereignty over the resources and also the performance needed is for some applications definitely will make them to choose to build their own layer 3 running with OP stack, for example, with a ZK stack or another stack. And this will create more problem. They will push further the fragmentation of liquidities within the Ethereum ecosystem. And to solve this problem, we don't see a very promising technology that can solve this problem and to a very ideal level that can come back and as an integrated ecosystem have atomic interoperability with each other. Seems impossible right now with the differences of tech stacks. We have 4 or 5 different tech stacks already provided with the layer 2s. But at the same time, we would argue that the limitation of monolithic layer 1s is still there. You want to scale whether horizontally or vertically, increasing the number of nodes or increasing the capacity of nodes is still going to be very challenging. Solana has its own limitations. It's still not an answer to future blockchains. It probably will be successful in certain use cases, but I think the Ethereum layer 2s and layer 3s will also be needed for other applications. I think most developer community still are very bullish on Ethereum ecosystem, but we just need to work together to find ways to interconnect. For example, the Ethereum layer 2s has already been working on this new feature, intent-based, and also like can read directly the states from other chains using ZK stack-based technology. With ZK proof, you can read the states from layer 1 directly, or layer 3 can read the states of layer 2s if it's ZK stack-based, ZK-based, I mean. Read the states directly, and this will enhance the interoperability. I'm going a little bit further, but yes, we will get there.
I think that's great because we've often heard that fragmentation is the issue with modularity. But once we end up solving that, they say that chain abstraction is the solution for fragmentation. Well, if you abstract away all the chains, it just looks like one chain. One chain looks like a monolithic system. So they end up converging. And so I'm curious, kind of like from the Optimism point of view specifically, and maybe Lava has a word about this too. When you're looking at all the different chains that are out there, how do you expose to the user enough so that they understand that they're interacting with some different assumptions when they go across different chains, but not so much that they become overwhelmed with all those chains?
I feel like you've been in our internal docs. We actually call one of our goals for Superchain is to make it feel like one chain. So literally that's something that we work on, like top priority for us, right? You'll see a little bit if you go to some of our other talks, some of our technical talks this week. We're talking a lot about interoperability, intent-based interoperability, and be able to read state from one chain from another. And that is going to allow 2-second cross-chain atomic transactions, right? So anyway, that's kind of like the technical aspect of it. From a user perspective, right? I mean, even me as an end user, I don't read technical docs of the blockchain that I'm using, right? I don't think most users do. From what we are planning to be able to kind of share to end users, right? Like you should care about the security of your chain and where your assets are, but you don't need to read technical docs to be able to do that. You should feel like you're transacting on the super chain across base or OP mainnet or mode as if it were one chain. But if you want to know what is behind the scenes on that, we're actually going to build something that's very similar to L2 Beat that is going to share kind of like what is a level of fault proofs? Is this a stage 1 or stage 2 rollup? What is the DA layer that this chain uses, right? So you can really quickly at a glance understand what's behind the scenes without understanding like technical nuances, right? So you can see that coming out in about Q3. So we'll release that as like, an Optimism version, the superchain version of L2 Beat.
And from the Lava side, it's maybe a bit easier when everything's on the same tech stack, like OP stack, to connect those. You guys are in a maybe more difficult position trying to connect different clusters of networks. How have you been able to find a solution to this fragmentation problem?
So I really like what Vivian said about how do you get to the users. And Our journey in Web3 was that infrastructure is shit, right? Like you, at the one hand, as an end user, don't need to know these terms, but at the other hand, you want to run your own node if you want to make sure that your access is scalable, resilient, not talking about censorship resistance and other values that we are all here for in Web3. But you know, chain abstraction, actually, what I like Elliot saying is the fact that it's the right term of modularity, maybe not marketed as good as modularity, right? But it's all about definition. It's all about who's the end users. And we did a very interesting experiment in Lava, presented by Lava Foundation in February. We launched the Magma point system, and the foundation asks every user to change the RPC endpoint to Lava and earn points, right? So in 1 month, 4 million wallets use that and change the RPC endpoint. You know, it's something that basically in 2 clicks, or less experienced user up to 5 minutes. But this is really brings you the value of Web3, right? If you think about privacy, if you think about opening MetaMask and really see the account balance, not downtime and stuff like that. So I think the solution we presented is taking the industry to the next level, because the dApps wants to build. They don't want to run nodes, right? And afterwards, they want to use indexing and subgraphs and oracles and all those amazing services that are out there. But are they really going to run after different providers, have quotes, aggregate them, orchestrate them? What is the quality of service? And this is exactly what Lava is building. It's allowing any chain to bootstrap with a single click those incentive pools, the chain itself putting incentives and inviting providers to serve. So, you know, chains like Optimism or Near or Axelar or Filecoin or Starknet, some of the collaboration we're already working with, already on the way to serve that. And yeah, I'm really excited because this is in the next few weeks we're launching the mainnet, and the Lava Foundation gonna soon have a pool party on Wednesday, so you're all invited there.
Awesome. Yeah, catch me out there. Cool. Like, you know, this fragmentation thing stretches pretty deep. Like, there's a coordination problem to connect all these chains. It's a very technical issue of fragmentation. But then there's also a business-related fragmentation problem where there's that tweet that went out there, and you know, it kind of said we're all building the same thing, right? And so I'm curious, like, from kind of like the aggregation perspective and the DA perspective, you know, you guys see some of the other solutions that are out there. How do you make sure that you find your own niche and you differentiate from some existing solutions and you really capitalize on the market that's available?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I'm technical, so I might be looking at it from a technical side of things. But I think that notion of we're all building the same thing is true, maybe on the high level, but on the details, we are differentiating. For example, we're building an AVS for fast finality for rollups, and we were with YQ yesterday and Outlayer. They also built the same idea. But when we go into details, we were both like, okay, that's actually not the same thing. At the end of the day, we're trying to provide the same value, but we have different ways of doing so. And I think that is also very valuable on the technical level. On the business level, it will also reflect in how fast your service is, or how cheap your service is, how secure your service is. So I think we are building more or less, at least if there's no new primitive, for example, restaking is a very, very good new primitive, right? We are kind of like converging on the same ideas because we're trying to solve the same problems at the end of the day.
Do you want to quickly separate how Altlayer and Nuffle are both building
sure.
DA, but with 2 different methods?
So I don't think Altlayer is building DA, but what they're fast finality. What I think how Altlayer does, like, you should tell me if I'm wrong, is they're using a shared sequencer, I think, while they're trying to get the fast finality. Where in our solution, we do not discriminate on the DA layer, and then we say just post your blob data on near DA for now, because we're near DA, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. These AVSs who are using restaked ETH, maybe eventually other assets, we're also working on that right now, of like an aggregated security layer. And then they would run the state transition function and then provide you with a state root that would say, yes, there's enough cryptoeconomic security behind this that would allow you to take this and then see this as the as the fast finality or pre-finality before Ethereum finality. And then you can use that to do cross-chain, cross-rollup, cross-chain applications, just like bridges or dexes or gaming in very, very small amount of time.
Very relevant to the chain abstraction conversation yesterday. Vitalik gave some talks about pre-confirmations, obviously for faster finality than Ethereum finality. Vince, a word on liquidity, or did you want to go first?
One thing you mentioned about finding the right business model, which I think Nuffle is doing great from the get-go. I share a personal story about Lava. When it started 2 years ago, we started more about decentralized RPC, right? And we thought about how we allow dApps to solve the problem of implementing their own cloud, basically, running the node, load balancer, backup, disaster recovery, and so forth. But then chains approached us and understood that we are actually unbiased about the providers. Chains just putting incentives and rerouting that, aggregating the top providers, and they receive rewards based on the quality of service. And when you're thinking about bringing more dApps to the chain, at the end of the day, the chain doesn't need to mess around with codes, with the integration. And if we are able to present this fourth layer, if you want to expand a bit afterwards.
Very modular.
But the fourth layer is actually access. Because if at the end of the day, dApps cannot build, dApps cannot connect, interact with the blockchain itself, read-write transaction, so everyone is suffering. And this is when we wanted to present a win-win solution, more BD-oriented for the chains.
Vince, I think we've got a minute or so left if you want to say a word. The last word to you.
Last word.
Sure.
Yes. I kind of noticed that interesting trending that everyone is actually building towards solving similar problems. For example, for aggregation technologies and also for intent-based transactions also requires faster finality. Especially we're aggregating not only like ZK layer 2s, but including OP layer 2s. In order to enable a user making a transaction or interact with the application or access into a liquidity pool or an assets, Optimism or Arbitrum, for example, requires faster finality, a confirmation of that transaction, and which goes back to the solutions that they're talking about, and we could potentially use a EVS for that with the staked ETH or restaked ETH. Or there's also some other solutions and interesting solutions we're seeing from the industry, and I think this will definitely help a lot for the modular blockchains to be able to compete with high-performance monolithic layer ones, and also the parallelized the EVMs this is still on the way. And in terms of aggregation layer, from us, we are happy to integrate solutions like Nuffle or Lava, to be able to provide a better user experience. And what we are good at is just to abstract away the complications of 4 or 5 different tech stacks: ZK stack, OP stack, Polygon CDK, whatever. And it's just build, instead of building 3-5 times, you build one time, and you still be able to access to different native assets and liquidity pools and applications. And this, I think, it will be the winning user experience for the coming cycle.
That's what it's all about. All right. Thank you, everyone.